Adrienne, you can't do this!
Watch me, Preston. This contract is void. I am rejecting these terms.
No, this is insane!
Get your filthy hands off me. The white billionaire jerked his hand away as though he had just touched something contaminated. I don't shake hands with people like you. Sir, we just signed the contract. The handshake is part of the procedure. Hundreds of cameras were broadcasting the moment live. Mr. Vale, think very carefully before you say another word. Her voice remained steady, but something changed in her eyes. Slowly, Preston Vale removed his white opera gloves, pulling them off one finger at a time before tossing them into the wastebasket beside the signing table. One can never be too careful. You never know what might rub off on you in a room like this. You're going to regret that. Adrienne Cole spoke so quietly that only the nearest microphone caught her words. What Preston Vale did not know was that before long, the same man who had thrown those gloves into the trash would be on his knees, begging her for another chance. Earlier that day, the woman in the white blouse had no idea her name was about to become known around the world. Adrienne Cole began her mornings the same way she had for decades. Her Tribeca penthouse remained dark except for the warm glow of a single lamp in the corner. She brewed her coffee black, without sugar, and drank it while reading 2 printed newspapers. Real paper, the kind that left ink on your fingertips. Her phone stayed face down on the kitchen counter. She loved the silence. She had earned that silence. Later, she walked down West Broadway in a charcoal coat, disappearing naturally into the flow of nurses, baristas, office workers, and bond traders. No driver, no security detail. No one recognized her. That was exactly how she preferred it. In the lobby of her building, Terrence Carter, the morning doorman, waved her over. His 10-year-old daughter, Mariah, was preparing to present a project at the city science fair. Adrienne remembered. She always remembered. What's her project about again? Water filtration, ma'am. She's been working on it for months. Tell her I'll be there, front row. Terrence's eyes grew slightly wet. He said nothing. He simply nodded. This was who Adrienne Cole was when no cameras were watching. A short walk later, she entered a quiet office high inside a Park Avenue tower. There was no marble lobby inside the firm, no decorative fountains, only glass walls intentionally designed so that everyone could see in. The brass plaque beside the elevator read, Cole Strategic Capital, $11 billion in assets, 300 employees, 1 CEO. Desmond Reeves was waiting for her in the conference room with a Navy folder in his hand. Desmond had served as her chief operating officer for years. He had watched Adrienne negotiate deals powerful enough to bring giant corporations to their knees. He had also watched her quietly donate entire bonuses from those deals to scholarship funds almost nobody knew she had founded. Project Foundry is ready for signing, he said. Bloomberg confirmed they're carrying it live. Project Foundry was a $1.5 billion growth capital agreement with Vale Industries, the conglomerate Preston Vale had inherited from his father and expanded through relentless aggression. The deal would finance the company's largest expansion in decades. Shareholders had already been told about it. The market had already priced it into the stock. Without that capital, the expansion would collapse publicly, and Vale Industries could lose billions in market value. Desmond slid the folder across the table. He still doesn't know it's you. Adrienne smiled without humor. Desmond did not ask why. He never asked questions she had already answered through her actions. For months, every negotiation had gone through intermediaries. Elite law firms, Ivy League bankers, corporate advisors, the entire performance. Preston Vale had simply assumed Cole Strategic Capital was some quiet old money fund controlled by men who looked like him. He had never bothered to verify who actually owned it. Desmond hesitated. You're still attending the gala? I want to see who I am doing business with before I finalize anything. Across town, inside an enormous Fifth Avenue penthouse, the man she was about to meet for the first time was screaming at his housekeeper. Preston Vale was 58 years old. He was being honored at the Vale Foundation Gala as Industrialist of the Decade. He wore a custom Savile Row tuxedo, and he was furious because his Latina housekeeper, Marisol, had placed the wrong cufflinks on his dresser. I said the platinum ones, not the silver. Are you deaf or just stupid? Marisol said nothing. She replaced the cufflinks. Her hands trembled. Preston's longtime assistant, Grant Ellis, stood in the doorway holding a tablet. Grant had spent nearly 2 decades serving the same man, years of swallowing every insult, every act of cruelty. every joke whispered at the expense of someone too powerless to fight back. Grant was 63. His granddaughter attended Howard University, and hidden on his personal laptop was a private file he had never told anyone about. Grant, the guest list. Yes, sir. Make sure the photo line reflects our brand. Screen out anyone who doesn't look the part. You understand. Yes, sir. And tell Vivian I want the speech moved up. I'm not standing around all evening. Soon, those two worlds would collide. The man who believed every room should contain only a certain kind of person, and the woman about to walk directly into one of those rooms. Neither of them yet understood that what happened next would destroy one empire forever. The Pierre Hotel glowed like a jewel box. Black town cars lined Fifth Avenue. Inside the grand ballroom, 400 of America's wealthiest people circulated beneath enormous chandeliers. An orchestra played softly. Champagne glasses glittered beneath the lights. Servers in white gloves moved silently between tables. The room smelled of expensive perfume and old money. Adrienne arrived wearing a simple black gown and small pearl earrings. She came alone. Vivian Holloway spotted her and approached immediately. Adrienne, I'm so glad you came. Vivian, thank you for inviting me. I should warn you, Preston is in rare form. I came prepared for rare form. Vivian lowered her voice. Adrienne, listen to me. If he says anything at all, I want you to know that I'm with you completely. I appreciate that, Vivian. Truly. He's a deeply unhappy man pretending to be a powerful one. Try to remember that when he opens his mouth. I'll keep that in mind. They walked together toward the reception line. Preston Vale stood at the top of the marble staircase wearing white opera gloves, laughing with a senator from Texas. Senator, I always say there are two kinds of people in this country, builders and takers. Couldn't agree more, Preston. And this evening, my friend, the builders are winning. As they should. Vivian stepped forward. Preston, I'd like you to meet Adrienne Cole. She's a donor to the foundation and a respected investor. Preston turned. His eyes began at Adrienne's shoes. They traveled slowly upward, past her legs, across her gown, finally reaching her face with the cold scrutiny of an inspector searching for something unpleasant. His upper lip curled slightly. He did not extend his hand. He gave her a slow nod, the kind a wealthy man might give a delivery driver. Then he whistled softly, one short sound, loud enough for the senator beside him to hear. Vivian, I have to ask, who exactly approved the guest list this year? Are we conducting some kind of inclusion experiment behind my back? A few people chuckled awkwardly. The senator coughed into his hand. Adrienne's expression remained calm. Mr. Vale, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Charmed, I'm sure. I've heard a great deal about your work over the years. How fascinating. I've heard absolutely nothing about yours. He turned toward the next guest. Adrienne had been dismissed. Vivian's jaw tightened. Grant Ellis, standing only a few feet behind Preston with the guest list in his hands, closed his eyes for a long moment. Adrienne entered the ballroom alone. Her heels clicked softly against the marble. She found her assigned seat. Table 22, far from the stage, near the kitchen entrance. The four guests already sitting there looked at her as though she had accidentally wandered into the wrong event. Good evening. May I join you? Of course, one of them replied without smiling. Adrienne sat down, placed her clutch on her lap, and ordered a glass of water. Across the room, Preston was holding court at the most prominent table, champagne in hand. Did you see what walked in tonight, darling? He said loudly to his wife, making sure nearby tables could hear. Hey. Oh, Vivian has finally lost her mind. Preston, lower your voice. People can hear you. Why? She can't hear me from over there. And even if she could, what exactly is she going to do about it? Preston, please. Relax, darling. This is my night. Let me enjoy it. A waiter approached Adrienne and gently placed her water on the table. As he turned away, Preston's voice carried across the ballroom. Careful with that glass. Wouldn't want anyone confusing this with the staff table. Laughter followed. A woman sitting at Adrienne's own table snorted into her napkin. Adrienne looked up at the waiter and smiled. Thank you. This is exactly what I needed. The young man looked mortified. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. You did nothing wrong. Please don't apologize for him. My mother is going to hear about this, I promise you. Then tell her you handled it beautifully. The waiter walked away. Adrienne lifted the glass and took a long, calm sip. At another table, veteran business journalist Celeste Bennett watched carefully. Her phone rested in her lap, recording audio. She had covered Preston Vale for years. She had never captured him saying anything quite like this before. Nearby, Vivian leaned toward her husband. "If he says one more thing, Malcolm, I swear to God." "Vivian, please, not here." He is humiliating her in front of the entire room. Are you blind or are you choosing not to see it? "And what do you propose we do? He controls the compensation committee. He controls half the board. He controls nothing if we stop letting him." "That's a beautiful sentence, Vivian. Now sit down before you embarrass us both." She said nothing. She simply stared across the ballroom at Adrian's back. Later, Preston took the stage to accept his award. He waved down the applause with both gloved hands. "My friends, America was built by a certain kind of person. People who showed up, people who worked, people who earned their seat at the table." A few cheers came from his table. "We live in an age when some people believe they deserve a seat simply by existing, simply by checking a box on a form, simply by being seen." Guests shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. Someone cleared their throat. Celeste's recorder continued running. "I want to thank the real donors here tonight, the people who built things, the people whose families built things before them, and I want to extend special thanks to our anonymous contributor for the $2 million gift." He paused. "Although I do hope they remained anonymous out of modesty and not for some other reason they might find embarrassing." His eyes moved directly toward Adrian's table. The pause was intentional. Everyone understood. A woman seated behind Adrian whispered, "Oh my God, is he serious? Did he really just say what I think he said?" "I think he did." Adrian slowly placed her water glass on the table. She rested both hands in her lap. Her face remained completely still. The applause was weak. Vivian did not clap. Grant did not clap. Even the senator offered only hesitant applause. After the speech, Preston descended from the stage and gradually made his way toward Adrian's table. He stopped along the way, shook hands, made jokes, clapped someone on the shoulder. He wanted his approach to look casual. Eventually, he reached Adrian. He did not sit. Instead, he leaned over the back of her chair, gripping it with both hands and bringing his face close to her ear. "Let me give you some advice." His breath smelled of champagne. His voice carried pure contempt. "People like you don't belong in rooms like this. You bought a ticket. You didn't buy a place. I could end your career with one phone call before you finish that glass of water." He leaned closer. "So do everyone a favor. Leave with whatever dignity you still have." At nearby tables, 3 phones were recording discreetly. Celeste's was one of them. Another young woman had propped hers against a bread plate. Adrian did not even turn her head. "Mr. Vale, do you have any idea what you're doing right now?" He laughed. A genuine laugh. The kind that said, "You are nothing, and we both know it." "I know exactly what you're doing. You're begging for attention, and you're not getting any from me." "That wasn't a denial, Mr. Vale." She paused. "That was a confession." "Excuse me?" 3 phones are recording you right now. I counted them when you approached. Sweetheart, nobody in this room cares what comes out of your mouth. You should care, Mr. Vale. Very soon you're going to wish you had cared a great deal. I won't even remember your name." "You will." Her voice remained soft. "I promise you that. You will remember it for the rest of your life." "All right." One word. "All right." He did not understand what it meant. Preston straightened, brushed imaginary dust from his sleeve, and walked back toward his table. He believed he had won. Adrienne picked up her clutch. She folded her napkin neatly beside her plate. She thanked a passing server. Then she walked out of the ballroom with the same dignity she had carried when she entered. Her heels echoed steadily across the marble. 400 people watched her leave. She did not cry in the elevator. She did not cry in the lobby. Outside, she stepped into a black sedan waiting along 5th Avenue and closed the door. "Where to, ma'am?" "Home. Take the long way. I need to think." "Yes, ma'am." The sedan pulled away. The man who had just humiliated her in front of hundreds of powerful people had no idea that his position as chief executive was already hanging by a thread. Rain began to fall. A fine mist blurred the city lights into streaks of gold and red. Adrienne sat in the back seat with her laptop open across her knees. The screen illuminated her face. An email was already drafted. To Desmond Reeves. Subject, Project Foundry. Body, kill it. Effective immediately. Release the public statement in the morning. Her finger hovered above the send button. She did not press it. Outside the window, the city drifted past. Adrienne closed her eyes. Suddenly, she was 12 years old again, sitting at the kitchen table of a small apartment in Detroit. Her mother was grading papers beneath the glow of a lamp. Adrienne had come home crying after a boy at school called her something cruel. Her mother set down the red pen. "Baby, look at me." "Mama, I want to make him pay." "I know you do. I felt the same thing when I was your age." "Then why aren't you telling me to do it?" "Because destroying a man is not the same as winning." "Adrienne." Her mother leaned closer. "Power is a knife. You can use it to defend yourself, or you can use it to cut your own soul out. Most people who get the knife end up doing the second thing without even realizing it." "How do I know the difference, Mama?" "You'll know." Her mother looked directly into her eyes. "When the moment comes, you'll know." Adrienne opened her eyes. Her phone vibrated against the leather seat. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then she answered. "This is Adrienne Cole." "Ms. Cole, this is Celeste Bennett from the Wall Street Chronicle. I was at the gala." "Yes, I saw you. I have audio, I have video, I have the speech, and I have what he said at your table." "How did you get my number, Ms. Bennett?" "I've been a journalist a very long time, ma'am. I get numbers." Adrienne remained silent. "I'm calling because I'm publishing it. I wanted you to know first." A long pause. "Ms. Bennett, publish what you have. I won't give you a quote, but I won't ask you to hold it." "Thank you, Ms. Cole." "And Celeste?" "Yes. Make sure people see his face when he walks away." "They will." The call ended. Almost immediately, another message appeared. Different number. No name. "I know who you are now. I looked you up. Cute little fund. Be very careful what you do next. I can ruin you and everyone you have ever worked with before lunch. P." Adrienne read the message once. Then again. Her expression did not change. She forwarded the screenshot to Desmond with a single line. "Save this. Preserve the timestamp. We'll need it." Then she thought about Preston's daughter, Brielle, a college student who had done nothing wrong. She thought about the 40,000 Vail Industries employees whose pensions were connected to company stock, people who could suffer the moment she destroyed the deal. She thought about Grant Ellis, who had spent nearly 2 decades carrying another man's cruelty in silence like a stone in his pocket. Her phone rang again. "Desmond? How bad?" "He just threatened me in writing after humiliating me in front of 400 people. Send the cancellation order, Adrienne, right now. We have everything we need." "No." Silence. "Adrienne, are you sure? I want him to walk into that signing room and have one more chance to be a human being." "One? One. If he is, we proceed with Foundry." "And if he isn't?" "Then I want every camera in that room watching what happens next. You're giving him a chance to apologize." "No." Adrienne looked out at the rain. "I'm giving him a chance to recognize me. There's a difference. And if he doesn't, then the way this ends won't be my responsibility." She paused. "It will be his." "Adrienne, I need to ask you one more time. Are you sure?" "I'm sure, Desmond." "All right." His voice softened. "I'm with you." Adrienne ended the call. She closed the laptop. She still did not press send. Celeste Bennett soon published a short video on the Wall Street Chronicle website. The headline read, "Watch what this billionaire said at his own charity gala." Within hours, the video had been viewed millions of times. The comments poured in. "This man called a woman trash to her face while being recorded, and we're supposed to keep buying products from his company. I work 2 jobs, and I have more class than this billionaire. This is exactly why nothing changes. Nobody important ever pays." Adrienne sat awake on her couch, reading the reactions. She kept returning to the same comment. "Nobody important ever pays." She read it again and again. Then she closed the laptop. She lay down on the couch without changing her clothes. She did not sleep. She watched rain slide down the windows until darkness slowly gave way to morning. Across town, Preston Vail slept peacefully in an expensive bed. His phone was on silent. He knew nothing about the video, nothing about the millions of views, nothing about the storm forming around his name. He did not know that his daughter, Brielle, had spent the night awake in her college dorm, trembling as she watched the footage over and over. By the time he discovered what had happened, it would already be too late to stop what was coming. The next morning, Adrienne returned to her office. Black coat, charcoal suit, the same pearl earrings. She had not slept. No one could tell. Desmond was already waiting with coffee. "How are you?" "I'm ready. The car is downstairs." "Desmond?" "Yes." "Whatever happens in that room, I need you to keep filming." He looked at her. "Even if I tell you to stop, even if security tries to stop you." She held his gaze. "Keep filming." "Understood." He hesitated. "One more thing.
Yes? My mother called earlier. She saw the video. She wants you to know she's praying for you. Tell her thank you.
Adrian picked up her coat.
Tell her I may need it. The conference room, high inside Vale Industries, began filling with journalists. Bloomberg, CNBC, The Wall Street Chronicle, Reuters, dozens of credentialed reporters. A live stream had been heavily promoted. Preston entered wearing a fresh pair of white opera gloves made from Italian leather. Without being asked, he told a reporter, "I have them custom made. Tradition matters." Grant Ellis stood nearby holding his tablet. His face was pale. Grant had seen the gala video. He knew what was happening. He had tried to warn Preston. But years earlier, Preston had made one rule very clear. Never volunteer bad news unless he asked for it. "Sir, the strategic capital representatives are on their way up." "Good. Bring them in. I want this signed quickly. I have a flight later." "Sir, there's something you should know before they arrive." "Grant, later." "Sir, I really think—" The elevator doors opened. Desmond Reeves stepped out first. Behind him, wearing a charcoal suit, walked Adrienne Cole. Preston saw her. For half a second, his face revealed everything. The color disappeared from his cheeks. His jaw loosened. One hand twitched at his side. It was the look of a man suddenly realizing the floor beneath him might not exist. Then, because he had spent his entire adult life hiding feelings he could not afford to show, Preston forced the smile back onto his face. Wider this time. Brittle. "Ms. Cole, what a pleasant surprise." "Mr. Vale, I had no idea you would be representing the fund today." "I'm not representing the fund, Mr. Vale." She looked directly at him. "I am the fund." Silence. A Bloomberg camera operator zoomed in. Preston's smile tightened. Of course you are. You sent me a message after the gala." His expression shifted slightly. "Do you remember sending it?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." "You should." Adrian's voice remained calm. "You threatened to ruin me and everyone I have ever worked with." Pens began moving in the press section. Phones lifted. "The screenshot has been preserved. The metadata is intact." A ripple moved through the room. Preston swallowed. "Shall we sit, Ms. Cole?" "Yes, Mr. Vale." She pulled out her chair. "Let's sit." The signing began. 2 copies of the contract. 1 for each side. Preston signed first. The pen moved across the page. He signed the second copy, then passed the documents to Adrienne. She signed hers, then his. Witnesses initialed the required pages. The $1.5 billion Vale Industries growth capital deal was officially signed. Next came the ceremonial handshake. The photograph. "Mr. Vale, Ms. Cole, please stand for the cameras." Preston stood. He had not removed his gloves. Adrienne stood across from him. She extended her hand. Cameras clicked. Flashes exploded. Preston took her hand. One firm, professional shake. Then he released it. The cameras continued firing. Preston reached for the glove on his left hand. His right fingers gripped the material. Slowly, deliberately, he pulled it off. Every camera captured the movement. He placed the glove beside the contract. Then he removed the second one with the same theatrical care. Flash after flash filled the room. Preston turned toward Grant. "Grant!" His voice was deliberately loud. "The wastebasket." Grant froze. "Sir?" "The wastebasket." Grant's face turned pale. He slid a chrome wastebasket closer with his foot. Preston picked up both gloves between his fingers as though they were contaminated objects. He held them above the trash, paused long enough for every camera to see, then dropped them. He removed a linen handkerchief from his breast pocket and wiped his palm. One can never be too careful. He glanced around the room. You never know what might rub off on you in a room like this. Silence. Absolute silence. The kind that happens when hundreds of people realize at exactly the same moment that they have just witnessed something that will be replayed everywhere. Celeste Bennett stood abruptly at the press table. Her pen fell to the floor. Vivian Holloway, standing near the back wall, pressed one hand against the paneling to steady herself. Adrienne did not move. For several seconds, She simply looked at Preston, not furious, not shocked, almost sad, like a doctor confirming a diagnosis she had desperately hoped would be wrong. Then Adrienne reached down. She picked up her signed copy of the contract, held it high enough for every camera to see, and tore it in half. The ripping sound was small, but every live stream microphone caught it. Millions watching heard it. Adrienne placed the two halves neatly on the table. She straightened her jacket, then looked directly into the main television camera. "My name is Adrienne Cole." Her voice was perfectly steady. "I am the founder and chief executive officer of Cole Strategic Capital." She paused. "As of this moment, Project Foundry is cancelled." Preston stopped breathing. "The full $1.5 billion facility is withdrawn." She looked directly into the lens. "The reason has just been broadcast live to everyone watching." Another pause. "Thank you for being witnesses." Adrienne turned. Desmond moved beside her. Together, they walked toward the elevator. Reporters parted around them like water around a ship. Preston remained standing beside the signing table. He said nothing. The elevator doors closed. The room exploded. Within minutes, Vale Industries' stock plunged 9%. Financial networks interrupted regular programming. Breaking news: Vale Industries' $1.5 billion capital deal collapses during live broadcast. CEO Preston Vale appears to make racially inflammatory remarks during signing ceremony. His daughter sent him a message. "Dad, what did you do?" There was no question mark. Trading in Vale Industries was halted pending a corporate statement. Celeste Bennett published another clip. The glove drop, 40 seconds of footage. It crossed 1 million views almost immediately. Preston remained in the conference room. Reporters shouted questions. He answered none of them. His mouth hung slightly open. His bare hands rested uselessly at his sides. Grant Ellis approached. His hands were trembling. He had waited years for this moment. "Sir." Preston slowly turned. "Ms. Cole, the woman from the gala." Grant swallowed. "She's Adrienne Cole." Preston stared at him. "She's the CEO." "What?" "Sir, I tried to tell you." Grant raised his tablet. On the screen was a magazine profile. The Quiet Queen of Park Avenue. Adrienne Cole, Investor of the Year. Her face filled the cover. Calm, sharp, unmistakable. The same woman Preston had humiliated publicly. Preston looked at the image, then at the wastebasket, then at his bare hands. Oh no! Vivian Holloway suddenly appeared beside him. Her face was white, her voice was quiet, but it cut through him. "Preston, get into your office." He turned. "The board is convening." "Vivian, listen. We can fix this. I just need to call her." "You will not call her." "Vivian." "You will not call anyone." She stepped closer. "You will sit in your office until the board meets, and you will think very carefully about what you did to this company on live television." Preston opened his mouth. "Do you understand me?" "Do you understand me?" "Yes." He walked toward his office. Reporters continued shouting. He barely heard them. When Vale Industries' stock resumed trading, it had fallen 19%. More than $4.2 billion in market capitalization had disappeared. Several of the company's largest clients immediately asked their public relations teams to prepare statements distancing themselves from Vale Industries. Preston sat alone at his desk. He stared at his hands. Again and again, he made the unconscious motion of trying to put on gloves that were no longer there. Far below, Adrienne Cole stepped into a black sedan. Desmond closed the door behind her. She looked through the window at the building she had just shaken to its foundation. She did not smile. She did not cry. She simply breathed. Later, the Vale Industries board assembled. 12 people sat around the table. Vivian Holloway took the chair at one end. Preston sat at the opposite end, in the seat he had occupied for decades. For the first time, he looked small in it. 3 outside attorneys sat along the wall. They were not there to protect him. They were there to protect the company. Vivian wasted no words. Has every board member watched the broadcast? Heads nodded. Has every board member reviewed the footage from the gala? More nods. Loretta Hayes, a long-time board member, was openly crying. Then we will proceed. Vivian folded her hands. I move that Preston Vale be removed as Chief Executive Officer of Vale Industries, effective immediately, and that authority over the office of the CEO be transferred on an interim basis to the chair of the board. Vivian, please. You'll have your opportunity to respond, Preston. I'm completing the motion. She looked around the table. Do I have a second? Second. The voice belonged to Warren Price, Preston's closest ally for years. Warren did not look at him. All in favor, 11 hands rose. Opposed, Preston raised his own. Only one. Vivian looked directly at him. The motion carries 11-1. Silence. Preston Vale, you are no longer Chief Executive Officer of this company. His face collapsed. Security is already waiting outside your office. Vivian, listen to me. This is a misunderstanding. I had champagne. What happened this morning was a joke, a bad joke. I can call her. I can fix this. Preston. Vivian's voice sharpened. Stop talking. The room went silent. Loretta was still crying. Grant Ellis stood against the far wall, watching the man he had served for years finally discover what it felt like to stand in a room where nobody intended to save him. Vivian continued, You did not lose this company because of champagne. She leaned forward. You lost it because you stood in front of hundreds of cameras and decided you were more important than the billions of dollars everyone in this room spent decades building. Preston stared at her. That wasn't a misunderstanding. Her voice dropped. That was a choice. She paused. And it is the last choice you will make in this building. 2 security officers in dark suits opened the boardroom door. Mr. Vale, please come with us, sir. Preston slowly stood. He looked around the table. No one met his eyes. Not Warren. Not Loretta. Not the attorneys. He walked toward the door, then stopped beside Grant. Grant did not move. Please. Grant looked directly at him. Sir, I need you to step away from me. For the first time in all the years Grant Ellis had worked for Preston Vale, he said no. His voice was quiet. His hand was steady. Preston walked out. The door closed behind him. He was escorted to his office. A single cardboard box waited for him. His access card was disabled. His company phone was remotely wiped almost immediately after he surrendered it. As Preston emptied his desk, a photograph fell from one of the drawers. His daughter, Brielle, at 6 years old. He picked it up. He placed it carefully inside the box. Later, Preston Vale walked out of the Vale Industries lobby carrying that cardboard box. A wall of cameras waited on Park Avenue. It had begun raining again, lightly, but enough. Across the street, a black sedan stopped beside the curb. The rear window was slightly open. Adrienne Cole sat inside, watching. Preston saw her. He placed the cardboard box on the wet sidewalk, then crossed the street, past traffic, past reporters, past cameras, and dropped to his knees beside her car. Right there on Park Avenue, in the rain, in front of hundreds of cameras. Ms. Cole, please. He pressed his palms together. Just give me 5 minutes. Adrienne looked at him. We can restructure Foundry. I'll sign anything you want. His voice cracked. Please. Adrienne lowered the window. For several seconds, she simply studied him. Mr. Vale? He looked up. At the gala, I asked whether you knew what you were doing. Rain ran down his face. You said you did. Adrienne held his gaze. Now you do. She raised the window. The sedan pulled away. Preston remained on his knees in the rain. Nobody helped him stand. Soon, federal investigations began opening. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission announced an investigation into Vale Industries' hiring practices. Its initial review revealed that under Preston Vale's decades of leadership, only 3% of senior management positions had been held by people of color, despite a workforce that was 38% non-white. Investigators demanded decades of internal hiring records. The Securities and Exchange Commission opened a separate investigation into Preston's personal trading activity. Investigators discovered that after the gala video had begun spreading, Preston's personal broker received written instructions to liquidate $80 million in Vail Industries stock before the market opened. The order was never executed. The broker refused, then voluntarily turned over the email chain. The Department of Justice soon joined the investigation, citing potential civil rights violations and possible criminal exposure under federal securities laws. Celeste Bennett later published a major investigative report. The headline stretched across the front page of the Wall Street Chronicle. "The House That Vail Built, a Pattern of Abuse." The investigation ran thousands of words. It drew on interviews with 61 current and former Vail Industries employees. Their stories sounded disturbingly similar. A highly qualified black engineer passed over for promotion. A Latina vice president pressured to resign after challenging a contract. A pregnant project manager told that her optics did not fit the company image. Slurs whispered in hallways. A cruel joke at a company Christmas party that ended one man's career. A handwritten memo from Preston himself instructing human resources to screen upper management candidates for cultural fit. The article named names, quoted emails, published photographs of documents. Soon 3 of Vail Industries' largest clients publicly cancelled their contracts. Combined value, $1.4 billion. Preston's wife, after a marriage lasting decades, filed for divorce through her attorney. The filing was sealed. The news still leaked almost immediately. Brielle Vail released a short public statement from her college dormitory. "I love my father. I do not recognize the man on those recordings. I will not defend him publicly or privately. I stand with the people my family's company has hurt, and I am ashamed it took this moment for any of us to finally listen." She was 20 years old. As the fallout continued, 6 former Vail Industries employees filed a class action civil rights lawsuit in federal court. The lead plaintiff was Roland Pierce, a structural engineer who had been denied a promotion despite being the most qualified candidate in his division. Behind the scenes, the plaintiff's legal team received quiet financial support through a discretionary grant from Cole Strategic Capital. Adrienne's name appeared nowhere in the filings. She insisted on that. The case was assigned to Judge Lorraine Whitfield. She was 68. She had served on the federal bench for decades and had spent much of her career presiding over civil rights cases. She did not give interviews. She did not need to. The trial stretched on for weeks. Dozens of witnesses testified for the plaintiffs. Then came the most devastating testimony of the case. The witness was Grant Ellis. Grant had resigned from Vail Industries after Preston's removal. He arrived in court carrying years of emails, calendar entries, handwritten notes, and voice recordings. For a long time, he had quietly preserved them on a private external drive in his apartment. He had never told anyone. He had never known whether he would eventually use them. Grant sat in the witness box for hours. He cried twice. Then he apologized to the courtroom for waiting so long to speak. "I needed the paycheck," he said quietly. "My granddaughter is at Howard." He lowered his head. "I told myself I was being practical." His voice broke. "I was being a coward." He looked toward the plaintiffs. "I'm sorry." The jury deliberated. When they returned, the verdict was clear. Liable on all counts. Damages. $215 million. It became the largest civil rights employment verdict in New York State history. Criminal proceedings moved forward at the same time. Preston Vail was indicted on 3 counts: securities fraud, attempted insider trading, and wire fraud connected to false statements made to federal investigators. His attorneys negotiated a plea agreement to avoid trial. He pleaded no contest. At sentencing, Judge Lorraine Whitfield read from a single handwritten page. "Mr. Vail, your wealth did not insulate you from the law." She looked directly at him. "It made you visible to it." The courtroom was silent. You spent decades believing the rules in the room applied only to people who were not you. She paused. You were wrong. The court sentenced Preston Vale to 36 months in federal prison, $90 million in disgorgement and fines, and a lifetime ban from serving as an officer or director of any publicly traded company in the United States. Court is adjourned. Preston was taken into custody directly from the courtroom. While serving his sentence, a letter written by Preston from a federal correctional facility was published in the opinions section of the New York Times. There were rumors that Brielle had helped him write it. No one ever confirmed them. The letter was short. I was wrong. I hurt people. I built a culture that hurt people. There is no excuse. There is no defense. I owe a debt I cannot fully repay in this lifetime. I will spend the rest of my years trying. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. It is not enough. Most of the people he had hurt did not accept the apology. Some did. Roland Pierce, the lead plaintiff in the civil case, was later interviewed by Celeste Bennett. She asked whether he forgave Preston Vale. Roland sat silently for a long moment. Then he answered, "Forgiveness is between him and his God." He took a breath. What I want is for my daughter to walk into a building someday and not have to wonder whether the man at the top thinks she belongs there. He looked toward Celeste. That's what I want. A pause. That's all I ever wanted. The interview went viral. Eventually, Vale Industries was formally renamed under a new corporate charter. Vivian Holloway was unanimously confirmed by the board as permanent chief executive officer. The company's new name was announced. Holloway Cole Industrial Group. Long after the glove drop incident, Adrienne Cole sat once again at the kitchen counter of her Tribeca penthouse. Black coffee, 2 printed newspapers, 1 warm lamp glowing in the corner. She had not given a single interview about what happened in that conference room. Not to 60 Minutes, not to Forbes, not to the New York Times. Publishers had offered her 7-figure advances for a memoir. She rejected every offer. A young podcast reporter contacted her and gently asked why she had remained silent through everything. Adrienne listened, then answered, "The story tells itself. I don't need to narrate it." The reporter pressed, "Ms. Cole, the country wants to hear from you." "The country has heard plenty." Adrienne paused. "What it needs now is to listen to the people who never got to be on Bloomberg." She declined the interview. At Holloway Cole Industrial Group, the changes received far less publicity than the collapse of Project Foundry, but they were more permanent. 40% of the board was now made up of people of color. 45% were women. The company established a scholarship fund in the names of the 6 plaintiffs. Its first recipients prepared to begin engineering studies. Grant Ellis never returned to corporate work. Instead, he began volunteering at a community college in the Bronx, helping first-generation college students prepare resumes and apply for internships. His granddaughter graduated from Howard. She invited him to the ceremony. He cried through the entire processional. Loretta Hayes, the board member who had cried during the vote to remove Preston, quietly began leading a supplier diversity initiative at Holloway Cole. The company redirected $300 million in annual procurement toward businesses owned by people of color and women. Loretta did not talk publicly about it. Neither did Vivian. The young waiter from the gala was named Darius King. He was offered a fully paid scholarship to the Cornell School of Hotel Administration by an anonymous donor. When people asked who paid for it, Darius always gave the same answer. He did not know. On a quiet weekend morning, Adrienne Cole walked from her building toward the city's science fair. She wore jeans and a sweater. No one recognized her. Inside, hundreds of children stood proudly beside poster boards and homemade displays. Parents hovered nearby with cameras and phones. The room smelled like glue, cardboard, and printer ink. Adrienne made her way through the exhibits until she found the booth she had come to see. The poster read, "A low-cost water filtration system using locally sourced materials." Standing beside it was a 10-year-old girl with carefully braided hair. Her name tag read Mariah Carter. The judging panel approached. 3 judges, 3 clipboards. Mariah took a deep breath, then began. She explained the chemistry of activated charcoal. She described the engineering behind a gravity-fed filtration system. She explained how access to clean water affected low-income neighborhoods. She was precise, funny, confident. She did not stumble. When the results were announced, Mariah had won 2nd place in the city-wide competition. She stepped onto the small stage. The microphone was too high. A volunteer lowered it. Mariah gathered herself. "I want to thank my mum for staying up late and helping me cut the foam board." The audience smiled. "I want to thank my dad, Terence, for telling me every morning that I could do this." Then she looked out across the crowd. "And I want to thank Ms. Cole from the 30th floor of our building." Adrienne froze. "She always asks about my projects." Mariah smiled. "She always remembers." The room grew quiet. "When I grow up, I want to be a CEO like Ms. Cole." She looked proudly toward the audience. "I want to remember people too." Warm applause filled the room. In the front row sat a woman wearing jeans and a sweater. Nobody around her recognized who she was. Adrienne Cole lifted the sleeve of her cardigan and wiped tears from her eyes. For the first time in this entire story, she finally allowed herself to cry. So here is the question. Had you been standing inside that signing room, phone in your hand, at the exact moment Preston Vale dropped those gloves into the wastebasket, what would you have done? Would you have filmed it? Walked out? Spoken up? Stayed silent? Leave your honest answer in the comments. Like this video if you believe dignity should never depend on someone else's permission. Subscribe for more stories where the underestimated finally get the last word. Share this story with someone who needs to hear its message. Because karma has a strange way of returning what people send into the world. The way you treat someone when you believe they are beneath you matters. Disrespect has consequences. Power can disappear. Circumstances can change. And the person you dismiss without a second thought may someday hold the power to change your entire future. So be careful how you speak to people. Be careful how you look at them. Be careful how easily you decide that someone does not belong. Respect costs nothing, but disrespect can cost you everything.